Hey y'all. Happy Sunday to you guys. Hope you all doing well. Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. I hope you all are doing good and that you are chillaxing and that you are enjoying yourself and you just had a good day, right? How many of you went to church today? Did you had a good day at service today? I hope you all did. I hope you did. Well, we are continuing. I'm about to say my daily dose, Jesus, because I do my daily dose of God's word every Monday through Fridays. So it's just embedded in my brain. But we are continuing our sister to sister connection show, right? With my girl Leticia Campbell. She's coming in momentarily. And of course, we got our girl Therese in the background. So I hope you were on last week because last week we had a great topic, great discussion. And so we're technically kind of revamping on that topic, but it's a different subtopic. So as you can see, the topic is if you think it's easy, you are fooling yourself, right? But last week we were focusing on marriage. So this week we're focusing on children, right? We're focusing on children. So last week was a great conversation. It was a great discussion. But we're gonna be look at her fly.
How are you? Oh, girl, please. I don't feel that way.
Look
Thank
at
you
her
so much.
fly.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you
Perfect.
very
How you
well.
doing, love?
I should do
Hi.
fine. I should do fine. How
You
you
look
do?
gorgeous. You look
Oh,
gorgeous. Yes.
aw,
Yes. Who we have on here? I see Diane in the building. Hey, Diane.
Diane, my girl Diane.
I've been feeling
What's
real
up,
good
girl?
lately. I was at a gospel concert last night until 12 o'clock, girl.
Oh, for real? Who did
You
you
know,
see?
oh my God, so many artists. I gotta send you the flyer with all the names. But you know how gospel concerts are. Like
Yes,
you think you're done with the performance, and another performer comes out, and another.
yes.
You're like, what? When are we gonna go home?
Oh, wow.
But it
Oh,
was
I'm
fun.
glad you had
It
a
was
good
fun.
time.
Yeah, I
Where
had
was
a
it
really.
held at?
It was held literally like up the street from my house, like because we have like a
Okay.
community center, and it's like a
Yes.
big ballroom. Like the ballroom fits about up to like 200 people.
Oh,
So it was different
wow.
churches, like a lot of different churches came together
I
and just
see.
did one big fundraiser because churches need money. So
Yeah.
they did one big
Yeah.
fundraiser. I think it was like $70 a ticket, and then you pay a little additional for food, and there were
Okay.
vendors there. It was a nice setup when different churches. It was gave me a couple of ideas too because it's better when you do things together than separate.
Yes. Yes.
And it cuts the
Yes.
cost on a lot of things too. Yeah,
Gotcha. Oh,
yeah,
I know you
yeah.
had a good time though.
Oh, it was fun. It was
Yeah,
fun.
especially
I'm a
with the
social
community coming
person.
together too. The
Yes,
community coming together, especially in this season and this, how things are going on right now. So that was really nice. That
it
was really
was. It
nice.
was. It really
Oh,
was. Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Wow. So who else we have here that's coming home? We got my girl Diane. We got some
Diane's
other
here.
people coming. Oh, this is awesome. I was just saying as you was coming in that last week we had a great topic, a great discussion.
Yes, we did.
And we are continuing with the same topic, but the subtopic this time is going to be about children. So again, the title is if you think it's easy, you are fooling yourselves, right? So,
Better.
I wanted to, personally I wanted to talk about this because my own personal experience of being married and
Right.
being a parent, it doesn't come with instructions. It
Right.
really
Right.
doesn't,
Right.
right? There are books, there are advice, all that
Right.
kind of stuff.
Right.
You get it from, professional licensed, doctors, whoever.
Right.
And thank
Right.
God for those individuals.
Right.
But, it's not the same until you really experience
Right.
those areas in your life. And so
Right.
Letitia and I, we're not experts by any means, but we're
No.
experts
No.
based on what we
Our
experienced as
experience.
being,
Yes. It's all
being as a
experience
married,
based.
being
Yeah.
married and being a mom, to multiple kids and all of that, and not even just with this more than one child, but you're dealing with different personalities and
Right.
all that
Right.
stuff, right? And
Right.
so that really does a lot to
Right.
to
Right.
parents and parenting and all those things. So I think, and we only have two points tonight, but each point, is going to be very meaty meeting that is going to be very conversational. And of course, we let everyone who's on here to definitely, put out their opinions or their viewpoints or their experience as well. And I know for most of you guys who are watching us, and those of you who are coming on, even those who are watching the replay, you are parents probably yourselves,
Uh-huh.
or you were raised, of course, by your mom, and you are a
Right.
sibling or whatever. So you can probably put your input in there as well,
Please
right?
do. Please do.
Yeah,
Because
please do.
Tawanta and I are, I mean, we're both moms, we both, hey, been, married and things like that. But we
Yeah,
all have different perspectives. So
we do. Yes.
Veronica, Diane, tune in on the conversation, share your thoughts,
Yeah.
because we all have different perspectives about children, raising kids, relationships, things like that. And we can all
Yeah.
learn from each other, or we could just agree to disagree as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
there may
Mm-hmm.
be things that I feel that Tawanta may not agree with, and vice versa. Same thing with you guys listening. It's good to just
Mm-hmm.
hear each other out and get
Yeah.
each other's different concepts, because you may meet somebody like Tawanta, like myself, like Veronica, like Diane, and you're going to be able to have a better conversation, even
Mm-hmm.
though y'all may have different perspectives on this particular subject. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is about
So,
you
and
two.
yeah, so we're going to get started and just make a disclaimer for myself on my end. My Wi-Fi is acting wiki wonky.
Yeah,
So if by chance I'm talking and I'm just freezing up, Letitia's going to take over and I'll come
right,
back as soon as the Wi-Fi, fix itself up. Okay,
right,
just let
right.
everybody know.
And if my sound is weird, like if I'm a little higher pitch, y'all let me know in the chat too, because I'm
Yeah,
trying to use my mic because the kids, they don't
I
got school
understand.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
So so they're, playing their game. I'm trying to avoid the TV noise and stuff like that. So they'll let me
Gotcha.
know if my mic is too high and I can lower the volume a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited about tonight, about the children. Children. Yes.
Yes, yes.
We love the
Yes, so
kids.
let's go ahead and get started with our first point. So if you think it's easy, it's you got nothing coming. Okay. So the first point is this: when it comes to children, make sure your mental capacity is an equivalent to your child's level.
Right. Right.
And what
Ooh.
that means is you better be mature enough to handle the responsibilities when it comes to your children.
Right.
Okay. I have been around a lot of people down through the years to see this for myself personally, where people, young ladies, they're ready to, have children, but they're not mature enough to
Right.
handle the responsibilities. They're not disciplined enough to deal with what comes with the package of raising a child.
Right.
They pretty much, are very passive or intimidated by by the issues that comes along with raising a child. So
Right.
that's what I mean about that, because
Right.
this is a serious thing. you
Right.
know God had saw fit
Yeah.
for you to have a child because he
Right.
knows that you are fully equipped
Quit
to
for it.
handle the responsibilities. The
Right.
enemy would tell you that you're not, but God
Right.
telling you that you
That you
are.
are.
You
Yes.
are. It's a process. As your child is developing and growing, so are you.
So
But
be
the instincts of motherhood is already embedded in you.
right.
You
Right.
have the
Right.
nurturing, you have that nurturing spirit, you have that love, tender, compassionate,
Right.
empathy. You have that all in you anyway. But it is a process of learning. It's a process, really understanding yourself, as well as you understanding this new baby that God bless you with, or this toddler, or this adolescence, right? Yeah. Hey, sister. Yes, this is a very important topic. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And beloved,
Ooh,
definitely share what you do, because I've been checking you out on social. Share what you
oh,
do in the chat,
sweet.
because that is
That's
definitely
awesome.
important to know. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Let us know
Thank
what
you
you
so
let everybody
much.
know what you do in the chat, so we know how to connect with
Ooh.
you. Go ahead, Tawanta.
Oh yeah. Okay. So again, I have seen down through the years, ever since I was a teenager, because I'm an '80s girl, So when I was in high school in the '80s, that's back in the day with Sheila E. Prince, all of them back in the day. But during my teen years, teen pregnancy was a major issue back in the day, right? If anybody who's in my generation probably,
Yes, it
can remember that.
was. I had
It
several
was
classmates in high school that was pregnant at that
okay.
age. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and it was a huge, huge thing back in the day, especially in my city in Newark, New Jersey.
Right.
And when I was in school, you would see these young girls with the book bag or
Yep.
with that stroller with the baby on the other hand. You
That's
know what
it.
I'm saying? And it was really, really intimidating and scary to see that. But it was also sad at the same time because a
Right.
lot of these
Right.
girls, they're 14, 15, 16 years of age trying
Right.
to raise a baby when
A
they're
baby.
still babies themselves,
Exactly.
and they trying to figure out how to, balance being a high school student while at the same time learning how to be a mom,
Right.
and it was rough for a lot of them, and it came across with some very difficult consequences for some of these girls at that time. Even one of my best friends, she had to leave, had to miss like maybe half a semester or
Hmm.
half a term, or I think her junior year in high school. And I didn't know she was pregnant. She didn't tell me. I found out after the fact
After
that
the
she was
fact. Yeah, they
pregnant.
used to hide it.
And yeah, and the thing is, thankfully, she did graduate with me because I'm a
Praise
class of
God.
87. She did graduate with me, but after the fact, she went through
Yeah.
hell.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
went through it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and her daughter, who I met at the time when she was just a baby, she's an adult, of course, now, but it came with some baggage. And
Baggage.
to this
Yeah.
day, my former friend is still dealing with the aftermath
Right.
of her daughter because of what went down through that process.
Right.
And that's
Right.
not everybody's story, I
No,
know.
it's not. Yeah.
But again, when you decide to have a child, or when you are ready to have a child, or even some are not ready for having a child, but when it does happen, are you really ready to take the responsibility of that? And not just, because some get comfortable if they have their partner or they have their significant other. They may think it's going to be a little bit more easier because you have that extra hand.
Right.
That ain't
Right.
true all the time.
Right.
The physical body is there, but the
Yeah.
mental capacity, they're not there at all. They
Yeah.
just assume that that's your job, your
Exactly.
responsibility to handle that crying baby, changing the diaper,
Right.
all of this stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
Even with that being said, I have seen where they do come together, they
Right.
do help each other out, but it's a process. It's a trial and error. Even
Trial
us
and error.
adults, even
Yeah.
us, when
Yeah.
my daughters was born, I was 32 when my oldest one was born, actually
Yeah.
33.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was trial and error,
It was definitely
because
trial
I
and
didn't
error.
know what to do.
Right. Right. Right.
Right? I didn't know what
Right.
to do.
Right.
But, plus my mom had already passed away and I'm the
Yeah.
only child. So to
Yeah.
me, it just felt like I'm in this world by myself without the support, or not so much support, but not really getting that education, if that
Right.
makes sense,
Or
through
training
people or
or
training,
experience.
right?
Yeah.
Experience from others.
Yeah.
So God was the one that truly was educating me and helping me through the process. Even though I knew internally I had the love, I
Right.
had that parental love, I had that empathy, I had that caress and all
Right.
of that
Right.
stuff. But when it came to the process of discipline, when it came to the process of training, when it came to the process of, being accessible, being available, and all these things, it was a challenge for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not saying because I had someone here, and
Yeah.
I give him the credit to when credit is due, but at the end of the day, I still was fighting it by myself.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Go ahead,
That's
Tish. I can
powerful.
do it all
No,
day.
I want to highlight what Beloved says. She said, "This is why as parents, it's important to train up your children according to the Word of
Exactly.
God, so that they aren't repeating generational mistakes." That is so
Absolutely.
true. But let me also give you guys let me state my opinion on this comment. I'm a
Sure.
mother. I'm a mother of five kids, as you guys all know. I
Yeah.
started having kids when I was 25 years old. That's when I had
Hmm.
my first child. And my youngest is 4 years old. Sorry, she just told me yes. I'm four. Yes, she's 4 years old. My oldest is 17. So I have teenagers Okay,
Yes.
middle schooler,
Yes.
and elementary.
Yes.
So I have all the different ages. And so when it comes to the way the world is, I know we got to keep our kids in the Word of God. And that's important. It first has to start with the parents. The
Yes.
children need to see us worshiping God
That's
first.
right.
We
I'm
can't
a
keep
living
sending these
witness.
kids to church and telling them to read the Bible, go to Sunday school,
Yeah.
go be an usher, do all these roles, and we're not displaying godly behavior ourselves. And I know beloved is on here; she could agree with me with that because that's important. Because if we're not seeing it in us, then they're going to repeat
Yeah.
those generational ailments. Because again, we are the first example. God is like God took children, and I can say this: I have 5 kids, and I talk to them about God
Hmm.
all the time. They
Hmm.
don't see God as a physical person. They haven't
Right.
had that opportunity of revelation. I have moments. I know you have too,
Yeah.
Tawanta, where you
Yeah.
felt God's presence, and
Yeah.
you know no matter what anybody can tell you, there is a God. You believe it.
Yeah.
It's in you. But when
Yeah.
children are young, they're not there yet. So we could
Right.
do things as parents, like beat the word down their throat so bad that they're going to throw it up. They're going to
Hmm.
throw it up and not really internalize it and take it in for themselves. Because there's four
Right.
things that kids deal with on a day-to-day basis, especially in
Mhm.
my house.
Right.
They have home, this environment that they're in right now with me at home, and
Mhm.
seeing how I operate, seeing how I communicate everything, right?
Yeah.
The second thing is they have church.
Yeah.
I'm a huge member of my church, just like Tawanta. Tawanta, we tell them what your title is, Tawanta,
I'm
so
a
they know.
minister.
She's a minister, ordained minister.
Yes.
I
Thank you, Lord.
actually, in my church, I'm part of the governing body of my church. I'm a vestry member, and I'm part of several committees in my church. Even today, I'm like, wait, we got another meeting?
Yeah.
Yes, I say yes to everything. I need to stop doing that. But so I play a humongous role in my church. I never walk
Yeah.
in church without people like bombarding me like, Miss Campbell, Miss Campbell, Miss Campbell. So both
Yeah.
of us play a huge role in our churches and our community. So our children have the church. That's part of
Hmm.
their life.
Hmm.
Then they have their friendships, their friends, and talk to on the phone. They hang out with, and then there's the world.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they
Hmm.
have all those four areas in their lifestyle that's influencing them, and to be honest, no shade, sort of tainting what
Hmm.
their beliefs are or what we're telling them, right? That we always
Right.
have to constantly, I always have to have conversations with my kids about how they should see things, because they go to public school, and so that your children has gone to public schools as well.
Hmm.
So they see that my daughter's best friend is Buddhist. That's her best friend, and I get it. Her friend would never come to. Back in the day, we used to bring our friends to church. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Come to church, activities
Hmm.
with church, Wednesday service, Friday youth night, all that stuff. They don't
Right.
really
Right.
do that now. I mean, we haven't experienced that because they have friends that are different denominations. Like we're Episcopal. What's your denomination, Tawanta?
I go to a Baptist church, but I'm non-denominational.
Yeah, you got Baptists, you got all these things. So sometimes it's
Yes.
hard to bridge,
Exactly. Yeah. You're right.
And back then we had things like that where they would
You
have
did.
bridging the gap type of events. If y'all know any of those things, especially in New York, New Jersey, Michigan, let us know. We would love to support them. But again, when it comes to the children and the mental capacity, you have to have a mental capacity. Hey, TT, especially me knowing that it's not just me influencing them or my church community influencing my kids, it's also the world at the same
Right.
time. So I constantly
Exactly.
have to have conversations with my kids and say, listen, I know your teacher may said this, I know you may have seen this on the news, but let me get you to understand,
Right.
why you should not talk that way, or why you should not operate that way, or why you should not have think that way,
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
at a disadvantage in the sense of we had a heavy church community with me growing up. Like
Hmm.
everyone, in practically all my friends, we all went to the same church, you know.
Hmm.
So it was
Hmm.
it wasn't like this outside. Like our kids have a whole world out there. We have to also understand that part and able to, like you said, uh, um, child level. You,
Yes.
me, when we say child level, we're not saying go down to their level and act like
Right.
kids.
Right.
What I'm saying is that if my daughter wants to have a conversation about, I'm just going to be open with y'all. My
Sure.
daughter's in 8th grade, Twonta.
Yeah. Yeah.
Girl,
Yeah.
last year, no, not
Mhm.
last year. Yeah, last year, September,
Mhm.
her school was giving out condoms to
Yeah.
8th graders. I
I'm
got
not
the
surprised.
email. I flipped out. I never forget this. I was in my car. It was raining. And I was like, no, they did not just send me an email that they're going to be passing out contraception today to the 8th graders.
Yep.
So we were not doing that. Contraception, right? And
Mhm.
I know what you guys are going to say. I get it. They want to teach them how to
Yeah.
protect themselves and stuff. But nowadays, these
Mhm.
schools don't even ask you for permission or consent. It's just like, well, we're going to do this
Wow.
today. We'll give out condoms today.
Yeah.
And that's what we're
Yeah.
doing without there being a conversation. So I remember having to call my daughter and be like,
Mhm.
don't you dare get no contraception. We're gonna talk when we get home. But
Right.
again, you gotta deal with all that because it's like they lay everything out now. Where before it was
Mhm.
more of a conversation. Beloved said right because at the end of the day, they are a gift from God. We are responsible to steward. Yes, we are definitely
Mhm.
responsible
Yeah.
to steward their plan. But we also have to know and understand that these kids are gonna make their own decisions.
Mhm. Mhm.
They
Mhm.
are. They're going to make their own decisions. There's way more things open to them than it was for us. Let's be honest. So
Yeah.
we have
Right,
to,
Dakota. Yep.
yes, we have to stir them in the right decision. Say, hey, if you go this way, this is going to happen. If you go
Mhm.
that way, that's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? That's something that I need to discuss about parents.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes, with the parents first, but they don't often do that. Yeah, so I love this. Yeah, y'all keep tuning in on
Yeah.
this
And you know
conversation.
what? I
Go
was
ahead.
just thinking when you said that at the time when my girls were in elementary, because they're done with school. My youngest
Yeah,
one is she
yeah,
just
you're
finished her second year in college. But
right.
um
Congratulations.
yeah, when my girls were in elementary school, thank God for the district here because they are very hardcore in
Yeah.
protecting the students.
Right, right.
And they're very old fashioned, but not in the old fashioned to the point like it's very, rigid.
Yes. Mhm.
But I respect what they do because
Yes.
what they do, they send the memo out to the parents to
Yes.
let them know that there is going to be a sensitive topic or discussion
That's
about,
about to happen.
that kind of thing. Would you allow your child?
Yes.
That's what I liked about them. They gave us that option.
Right.
Do you want your child to be included in this
In this
conversation? If
conversation.
not, we will put them in the another
Another
room
room. Yep.
that they don't have to hear that
Hear that.
stuff.
Yeah. Out of
And
respect.
that's what I loved about this school. And I'm praying they're still doing that to this day.
Mhm.
But like you said, most schools are not doing that.
They're
They're
not
not
doing that.
giving the parents the option. They
Yeah.
just go blatantly to say, look, here, we got a
Yeah.
package
And the
of
example you made, it now is more of a courtesy. You know what I'm saying?
yes,
The example you
yes,
said, oh, well, we'll give you, but they don't have to do that now. You know what I'm saying? As an
yes.
educator, I refuse for them to put that ideal in my students. No, ma'am, we are passing that table. Yeah, yeah, you have to do those
Mhm,
things. So and I'm always going to feel this way, Tawanta. I feel
mhm.
that, and y'all let me know in the comments if y'all agree. I feel that certain conversations are high level conversations for
Yeah.
children, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
certain conversations are low level, meaning not low like the kids are low. I'm just talking about just the heaviness and the dialogue of it all. You know,
Yes.
things about sex and things like that. That's more of a high level conversation, or things like that. The lower level, and we got to know as parents, depending on we know our kids. Like I know my kids, so we know if they're ready to have a conversation about certain things.
Mhm,
Especially if you're a parent and you haven't even discussed that to your children.
mhm,
You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
So we all have to have that sense of, we have to have that world maturity, and we also
Yeah,
have to have spiritual maturity. I know everyone's on here who's watching. You have spiritual maturity. Type in one in the chat and be like, yes, I have spiritual maturity. I know there's a God. I believe in God. I read my word. I go to church. If
yeah,
I don't go to church, I watch online. Whatever.
yeah,
You have spiritual, but we also have to have that worldly maturity to
yeah.
know and say, hey, we got to advocate for these children. We got to see what's
Absolutely.
the curriculum about, when they're going to be teaching what, so we know beforehand. Because I know if my son's he's 17, he's about to graduate soon, so I can have that talk to him because he's
Mhm,
17. But my
Mhm.
daughter, I'm like, wait a minute, we're not talking about that right now. I just want to, because just starting high school, so they're just getting into the
Yeah.
the the culture of it.
Yes.
To deal with
Yes.
that is hard. But
Mhm.
even besides that, we have to have the capacity, the even for to teach our children about marriage, about finances. We
Mhm.
got to teach our
Mhm.
kids that. Like I just
Yeah.
got my life insurance uh, um,
Mhm.
um, certification. So
Right.
I'm learning more about financial literacy that I didn't know back then. So we got to teach we're like, just like we're responsible to teach our kids about God. God also wants us to teach our children about wealth as well, and how to
Mhm.
know how to tithe. Like
Mhm.
even Tori being, I give her tithing. She has her own envelope, and she's 4.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
today she went up to the altar. She gave her. She loves it. So to get
Mhm.
them used to that
Mhm.
habit of knowing why they need to, what to give, they need to give their percentage. You got some adults now, especially in my church. I'm not gonna name no names. That
Yeah.
they go, I ain't going to tithe. No, I ain't doing it. And I'm thinking like, wow, I can't believe that people say. And again, if you have your own opinion
Mhm.
on it, I respect that. I'm just saying, like, when you grew up a certain way, it's kind of like you're like, wait
Mhm.
a minute,
Mhm.
that don't make no sense. But
Yeah.
again, you got it's the mental capacity for all things in their life: financial,
Mhm.
spiritual,
Mhm.
relationship,
Yeah.
how to handle conflict, right?
Mm.
Right. I thank God for homeschooling because the schools does not respect the fact. Girl, listen, Tawanta will tell you, Miss Beloved, I couldn't do the homeschooling. I tried during COVID, and I God bless you. I have there's a special place in heaven for those of y'all who homeschool your
Ay!
kids, because I could not do it. I tried it. I tried
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not for everybody. It
No,
it
it's
it is.
not.
It's,
And
it's not. Yeah.
I
After a
have
while.
a business partner. He homeschool his daughter too.
Right.
I've been traveled all over the world, and I was around a lot of digital nomads, and they
Yeah.
educate their school. They called it World Education, and yeah, it works. Yeah, but God bless you on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, girl. God bless you. You deserve an
Yes, I
award.
like
You
dropping them off and being
really do.
home for 4 hours by myself and getting work done. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking back at the time when I was growing up. Like I said, I'm an '80s girl, I'm '80s
Yeah,
kid or whatever. But I thank God for the training from my mom and from the
yeah,
village, as we used to call it, the village of people that was around you that
yes, yes,
that trained you, that disciplined you, that kept you in your place. And they taught you the truth, and they didn't sugarcoat anything. They weren't
no,
passive about stuff. I'm very grateful for that training, for that discipline, for that love, because that's what love is. If you love your child, you're going to discipline and teach your child according to the biblical principles of what the word of God says, and not sugarcoat and not try to, replicate what other households are doing,
yes, yes.
um, and of course, with that training, I definitely instilled that into my daughters,
You gotta,
and
you
thank
have to.
God that they are young, mature young ladies where they put God first at everything they do, and that they have discernment to know the difference when it comes to the people who they connect to and
That's
who the
right.
people should not associate with, and so forth and so on. So again, during that time, again, back then it was different because family
Yeah,
was family. People
yeah,
came together, family was connecting, and whatnot. But as time passed, especially around the 90s, yeah, around the 90s, that's when things started to shift.
it
That's
did.
when everything would start to, fizzle out in a sense. Because again, mind you, a lot of those parents were young when they had their children or child, and they didn't have they didn't know no better, of
Right.
course. They were very naive and very immature and all those things, and so it just got worse from generation to generation. But that's not everybody, I know.
It's not. It's not. I mean,
Hey,
I know, and Annette, she's on here. Her and I were at.
Annette.
Hey, her and I are always out in the community. We're any community board meeting, fundraiser event. We're popping our heads in the building like, hey, But
Hey.
we were at an event. What day was that, Annette? It was last one of the events we were at last week. She'll tell you in the comments. But there was this
Mhm.
young man that stood up and it was a police officer. There was a lot of police officers there, a lot of sergeants, top level people in the police
Yes.
thing. And he the thing I love about one thing I could say about the kids in this generation is that they're
Mhm.
very vocal. I
Yes.
don't know
Very
about
much.
where you guys are at and what your with the youth in you guys community are like, but our community they're very vocal. And this young man, and we got to stop silencing the kids. Yes, we should
Yeah.
correct them when they get out of line because I feel like a
There you
kid
go.
needs to act right. My grandmother used to say, "Act right now," and we knew we didn't act right. It's gonna be a situation, so we just got to
This
whatever we
There'll
doing
be
wrong, just
consequences.
stop doing it and just act right. So we knew what that meant. Okay, she didn't have to explain it or get no details or what do you
Yes.
mean by act right? No, just girl act right. Learn, you better
Come
pick up
on.
and put it down. You picked it up. It's like okay, but that is okay. But
Yeah.
when they are sharing their heart and their opinions, this young man stood up, had to been about 17 years old. Community board meeting, yes. And what day was that though, Annette? And he was telling the police officers in the room, he said, sometimes I hang out with my friends and I feel like a lot of the new police officers that are like this,
Mm-hmm.
they're too jumpy.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
like they get a little nervous around when they see a group of black boys that
Yeah.
really not doing nothing bad, but just hanging out. It's getting
Mm-hmm.
warmer outside. They're hanging
Yeah.
out, whatever. They're
Mm.
not doing no drugs, no weed, nothing. Wednesday, yeah, they're just hanging out. And I
Yeah.
felt that boy, his energy, like he had an experience
Mm-hmm.
that was a bad one, you know?
Yeah.
And the fact that
Yeah.
he stood up in front of a room full of officers and said, I wish y'all could train these officers on how to be around children in our community because not all of
Mm.
us are doing something bad. Not all of us are selling drugs.
Wow.
Not all of us are stealing and things like that. We got to have the mental capacity to just hear these kids. Stop. We can't
Yeah.
just cut them off. And when he stood up, he even said, "I'm a little nervous." He was like, "No, we clap. We all applauded this boy because that's a
Sure.
brave thing to do. And we should applaud the children when they are speaking with their true heart."
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
that's a real thing that these
It is.
boys have to deal with. Like Annette just came with me to the DMV recently. My son's 17. We have to get him a non-driver's license just in case he's out there in the street and a
Yeah.
cop stops him. He can
Yeah.
have his actual ID. They don't think that
Mm-hmm.
he's not from around or whatever.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
is that part too? Is that we gotta get down to these children's levels and just hear them out. They got
Mm-hmm.
stuff to say,
That's
you
absolutely
know.
true.
And a lot of
That's
them are not
absolutely true.
cussing and acting a fool. Some of them just want to say, "Listen, I just want to hang out with my friends." We used to do.
Yeah.
Me used to be out there hanging out, girl, back in
Yeah.
the day, having a
Yeah.
good old time. And we never had the issues like the youth has, in this day and age, where
Yeah.
now they got to watch out for the neighborhood bully and the police officers that is probably trigger happy or whatever. You know,
Yeah. Oh,
it, it,
yeah.
it's
Back in the
yeah,
day, for real, back in the day, we had things that kept us occupied, that kept
yes,
our minds
yes,
going. We
yes,
didn't get so easily distracted by the nonsense.
yeah,
We were always involved with our friends. Back in the day, we knew how to play outside
yeah.
when we didn't have the
Man,
stuff to
listen.
play with. We knew
Yeah,
how to hang with our friends. My friend would come to my house, I go to their house, and we still had a
we had
good
fun.
time. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? It was
people
just
fell in
really
love.
fun to connect in
Oh
that way.
yes,
And even then,
yeah,
communication was key
great
back
organ.
in the day. Like
Yeah,
I said, when parenting, when you had that family home, and I'm not saying all family homes were the best home, like the Cosby kind of home kind of setting.
right,
I know there was
right,
some disturbance, some abuse, all that stuff. That happened in the 80s too. Trust me, okay.
right,
But
right,
even with that being said, back then it was a platform at the time with my generation where we
right.
were able to go ahead and say, Mom, Dad, I need to talk to you about
Yep,
something,
I
something.
need to have a conversation.
Yeah. And at the same time, we knew our place.
Yep,
We knew not to get out of order. Even if we did get it annoyed or whatever, we had to, it was a thin line. Because
yes, in line.
my mother was like the general. She don't play with my mother because she
Don't
would let
play
me
around
know.
it, and don't make her talk twice.
Right.
Yeah,
So it was just all about, respect. It was all about, communication and, have respect for yourself
hmm,
as a young lady growing up back in the day. It was all about, really taking care of your body, taking care of
yeah,
your image
yeah,
and all that stuff. That
yeah,
was important to me. And I wasn't trying to act like a prima donna or anything, but it was just how I was raised
It
to
just
just take
was.
care of yourself.
Yeah,
Right.
and look decent. And I feel like
Right.
as women, Tawanta, we need to have other strong women around us. This is a sister to
Amen.
sister connection show. So type into in the chat if you I'm a, have a strong sister friend. Tawanta's my strong
Yeah.
sister friend. Annette's my strong sister friend. Child's
Yeah.
about to break down on the phone yesterday, and Annette was like, "Girl, get it together. Don't let your children see you break down." So it's like you need somebody in your life like that to
Yeah.
say,
Of
hold
course.
on, remember, girl,
Living witness.
remember your power. Remember
Yes.
your power, girl. Don't
Yeah.
lose it now. I know you're going through what you're going through, but remember who you are. Remember who
Yeah.
God said you are. You need
Yeah.
other women like that, other strong women. If you don't have that in your family,
Hmm.
go out there, join a Facebook group, join a church. Go on Google and type in women's group or whatever, and find those
Yeah.
things to go to so you have that, yes, beloved said, accountability, and somebody that's
Hmm.
going to really, really let you know what time it is, instead of being the person that say, "Oh, I'm just going to cry on the shoulder all the time." That's not that there's anything wrong with crying. I get it, but one thing I know is
Yeah.
true, and I'm learning this myself. I'm saying this to myself. I'm learning this myself. Your emotions can get you stuck. It
Yeah.
can keep you in a place where you're
Mhm.
not at that mental capacity to even be there for your children.
Right,
You
right.
understand?
And that also comes with life challenges as
Yes.
well. Because my mom raised me by myself. I didn't have my mom and dad together.
Right. Right.
My dad was in my life, but he had another life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he was
Another life.
always attentive. He was
Right.
always available and
Right.
accessible when
You knew who
when
he
it was
was.
needed. Right.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it was just me and my mom until she got married to my stepdad or what have you. But even at that time, you know, my mom was the parent, and like the mom and the dad, as they say, she, made sure that, we were living in a place that was decent, it was safe.
Right.
She didn't make a whole lot of money, but what she had, she made do with it. She
Do
made
with it.
sure I was well fed,
Right. Right.
and all of these things. And I applaud her for that because she had
Amen.
a lot against her, but yet she still kept pursuing. She
Right.
kept going because she
Going
had me
forward.
when she was 25. She had me when she was 25. And
Right.
that's still young,
Yeah, it
even though
is.
that's adult, but that's still young because
Yeah.
even at that stage today, the 20-year-olds, even in my
You're
generation, now
finding
I'm in my
yourself.
20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still learning about you. You
Yeah.
you still
Because you out
growing.
there in the world now. So you learn about you, the world.
Right.
That's the
Yeah,
truth.
you learn about you, your life. You readjusting. Things ain't turning the way you thought it was going to turn
Yep.
out when you graduated from college.
Yep.
Everything is just shifting so differently for you.
Right.
And so for my mom to have me at that age, and that stage of her life, especially in 1968, 'cause that's when I was
Right.
born, 1968. That was the year. It was a lot going on, especially with Black communities,
Right.
especially after Martin Luther King had died, especially when it was a whole lot of racist stuff going on back in that season and whatnot. My mom had to endure a lot of that stuff in her life, but thank God she still kept going. She still kept going. Now, of course, today, there's a lot going on in a lot of people's lives today. There's
Right.
still a lot of single moms out there. They
Right.
may have the father figure in their life, but most of them probably don't. And now the mother's got to be that parent, be that dad. The mother got to work not one but two jobs to try to, support, to take care of their homes and their children, all of those things. So yes, you got to really have a strong mental capacity, to really understand the dynamics of what you are dealing with, because not only does it affect you, mom, but it affects your child. You got
Yes,
to
it does.
understand that, because a lot of
Yeah.
times the parents overlook that. They look at the kid and they're like, "You just a kid. You ain't got nothing to worry about. You ain't got no pressures. You ain't got no drama. You got no issues." Are you kidding me? You come on, and that's not true. If you stay in that school, you see your child may not honestly tell you that they've been bullied all the time, or that they've been teased all the time, or whatever. Back in the day it was different, but now these kids are dealing with a whole different way of how to just keep all that stuff well hidden in themselves. You know what I mean? So we as parents today, we got to be a little bit more sensitive and more empathetic and more understanding. You got to be understanding when it comes to your son and your daughter, because even though back then for me it was different, but we're in a different age, different time, different season, y'all. We're in a different woo, we're in a different level here. And so, what we can offer, what was offered to us is love, patience, right? And to be open and be available for your son or your daughter to come to connect with you about some sensitive issues. What may not be so important to you, you best believe it's important to them, right? So we can't just brush them off. We can't just like, oh, go somewhere, sit down, child. Nobody worrying about you and that. No, don't do that, because they take that seriously, whatever that it is. They find that very important, and you have to be very, patient and very understanding, and ask God to give you the words to really bless them and love them at the same time, to tell them what they need to do or what they need not to do. For instance, now I go back with my daughter, my oldest daughter, when she was in middle school. She was, having insecurities about herself, as a normal mid, preteen would. And she saw, a group of girls, and they were like this, and I know they're pretty doll babies and all of that, but she didn't consider herself to be pretty. She wanted to have the light blue eyes and the blonde hair and all of that. And I was like, girl, if God wanted you to have the blue eyes, it
She
would
is
have been
prettier
done.
than all of them, first of all,
Okay. And I said,
put
no, baby,
together.
start loving you for you, and
Yep.
thank God that was just a short moment for her to go through those insecurities,
Right.
but it was still something that was very serious for her.
Right.
It was something very sensitive for her, because
Right.
she didn't have to come to tell me that,
No,
you
she
know,
didn't. She definitely
she
didn't.
didn't have to. But I thank God that the training that I had poured into them, that they felt comfortable to come to me to tell me something like that, and my response had to be very sensitive, but yet firm at the same time, with a lot of love, to remind her of her beauty. That God
Right.
did not make a nobody, He made a somebody. He made a unique, beautiful creation, that is you. And what God makes is perfected.
Perfected.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with you, boo.
Yes.
And you got to understand that you're still learning, you're still growing, you're still developing, you're still maturing. you
Amen.
know just like those girls are, they
Yep.
learning and growing and maturing and everything.
Yep.
So when we had our talk, she felt somewhat better,
Better. Yeah.
and that was good for
Praise
me.
God. Praise God.
That was good for me. But you got some moms out there, they'll be like, you better stop that. Well, look, if you want to look like them, I'll get you some makeup. Or you
Yeah.
want blonde hair,
Yeah.
then we go put some weave in your head, get some
Yeah.
wax. No,
Yeah.
no, no,
Yep. They
because
don't
you
need all
already
that.
telling them that what they got now, what is already God given, that is not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that. I've seen these babies come into school looking a whole different person. Like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And everything but themselves.
Exactly, babe.
Everything but
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
And that's important to just get them to know to just be yourself. Yes, you could experiment. Like I used to experiment my mom's makeup and her nail polish and all those things.
Yes.
But is coming into you, I think it's
Yeah.
important. And that's another thing about the child's level is getting them to be who they are. They
Yeah.
don't know sometimes they don't get into that level of awareness until they are getting in their 40s and things like that. Just imagine if we teach our young girls how to just be who they are and not
Yeah.
influenced by the world. Yeah, yeah.
Amen.
It's a good
Yeah.
conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Let's go to the next point.
Excuse me. So
If
our
y'all
next
loving
point
this, go
is,
ahead and type me in the
yeah.
chat if you're really loving this. Oh, PTSD. Go ahead, Val.
Yes, PTSD,
Yes,
y'all. We're gonna
yes.
talk about those letters, honey. Of course, we know exactly what that stands
We
for in
do.
the
We
terms when it
do.
comes to military, and what they endured, and we keep them in prayer, because there's still a lot of them are dealing with that. But of course, from a mother or a parent perspective, we go through it too. But I broke it down in a sense where you can understand what those letters represent, because we need these four to help us, raise our children in a better environment. environment, in a better climate, in a better atmosphere, right? So the
Right.
P stands for patience. We gotta be
We have
patient
to.
with our child or
We have to
children.
be.
Those of you who have multiple babies, you gotta be patient, especially those of you who have more than one child with different personalities. Ain't
Yes.
no different. Anybody here is an educator. If you are
Yes.
a teacher, you know you got about 15, 17 plus kids in that classroom, honey. And you got to deal with 15, 17 different personalities.
Yes,
And
we
your
do.
patience is being stretched like a
Yes.
rubber band.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And
And
so
challenge.
likewise, yes, girl. And likewise, you gotta be patient. You can't get irritated every time one child says something, another child saying something. You gotta understand your child, because that child personality is different from the other child's personality. There may be some similarities, but you gotta have a better response, a different response, I would say,
Right.
when it comes to your children, right? So
Right.
patience is key. You got to know, because one child may get that may develop a little bit more maturely
Yeah.
quicker than the other one.
That's true.
That other
That's
one's
true.
still lagging on.
Yeah. It's the truth. It's the truth.
You know, and you like,
Yeah.
you just come. Why can't you be like your brother?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
can't you be like your sister? That's a
Yeah.
bad thing to say.
That's a
And
bad thing to say.
I had to repent on that many times. You cannot say that. Don't do that, because
Yep.
it's like you like you putting your son or your daughter in a competition kind of situation. If that makes sense, you got to understand that your son or your daughter, is not in that the maturity level to quite grasp or hold on or understand versus what that big sister or brother can understand or grasp. It's gonna take a minute, but they gonna get it. They gonna get it, right? So yeah, patience is key. And and you gotta, and here's the thing, it comes both ways, because you gotta also teach your child about being patient with you. Okay. You gotta teach, hey LaShawn, you gotta teach your child too about being patient with you. Okay, especially when it's more than one child in that house. Okay, they got to understand the definition of patience. You got to break it down to them based on their age level, right? So they could know what that means, because they're not going to grasp it just like from an adult perspective. No, they're not going to grasp. You got to break it down, just like you break down. You cut up like little pieces of chicken for the babies. They can't gulp it down in one big piece. You got to cut it down for them to take one little piece at a time. So likewise, it's the same thing when it comes to patience. Yeah, she said it's just like us in the body of Christ. Jesus is not going to accept us, sorry, for all us to be on the same level. That's why it's
Right.
called a body. That's
Yes.
right,
Yes. That's
because we're
right.
not
That's
all on
right.
the same level. It's a process. It's a process to get there, y'all. And we all have to, and we need that patience. I tell you, God has been my teacher. He's been my mom, my dad. He's the one that's been pouring that patience into me on myself, for me. Because again, as moms, especially if you're a brand new mother, you're not gonna get it all. You're not gonna have all the answers. You're just not. And you
And you're
gotta
not
learn how to be
supposed
patient
to.
with
You're not
yourself.
supposed to. Yeah.
Exactly. Go ahead, babe. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that patience. I told my kids today, I said, you have three moms. You got me, you got Annette, and we have somebody at our church. Her name's Allison. And it's good for us to do that sometimes. I mean, with people that we trust, because there's a lot of stuff that I don't know that Annette knows, or that other people, other women may know. And
Yes.
and for me particularly, I struggled with um they use this term in church sometimes, like your kids are our kids too. And I'm like, no, they're not. My kids are
Mhm.
my kids.
Yeah.
I share them with the rest of y'all. But again, it is the truth. In the church,
Yeah.
your kids are their children as well. They see your kids grow up. They have conversations
Mhm.
with the children. They invite them to different functions and stuff like that. So the level of patience has to be, a universal thing. To have
Yeah.
patience with ourselves, to know that we as moms, we're not perfect. None of us is perfect. I don't care how godly you say
Nope.
you are.
Come
There's
on.
one or two things that when your kids, your nieces, your nephews, they're gonna say something like, you said this to me and I didn't like, or you did this and I didn't like, or I didn't agree with it, whatnot. None of us are perfect. We all fall short. So
Hmm.
I know for me, being a mother, I try my hardest to apologize to my kids when I'm wrong. I think if
Yeah,
you
me
teach your
too.
children early on, I'm sorry, it shows that you hold yourself accountable. So they're going to hold themselves accountable better.
Amen.
They're not going to walk around here hurting people's feelings and doing backsliding things to people, having no
Yeah,
empathy at all and pointing fingers and all this stuff. When they see you hold yourself accountable, you know, worldly and spiritually, they're going to do the same thing.
yeah,
Yeah, it takes a village. It does take a village. But for me, and Annette is on here, she would tell you, I didn't want to give my kids access to the village because I had a huge issue with trust. So that's another thing,
yeah.
being patient with ourselves. We have to open up. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
All the kids in the
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood were neighborhood. Yeah, all the kids in the neighborhood, neighborhood
Neighborhood
kids,
people.
you know?
Yeah,
And that's what it is. So patience is definitely important when you're raising kids. And trust me, as I'm saying this, I can flash back to things that my daughter said. She's 13. I'm like, girl, what you say? Even Tori, I'm like, she's 4. I'm like, what you say? What you say to me? You know, and just have patience, you know? And it's not always because children will test your patience, you know.
woo.
They will. They will. They're gonna test it, they're gonna stretch it, they're gonna roll it over. And each day they just do more and more and more. It's just to have those patients, like just like we're growing as moms, they're growing too. Yeah, yeah. Oh, she's
Child,
yeah, yeah. 14-year old. Yeah,
listen. Oh,
14
you
years.
look. I'm grateful. I'm not in prison.
Yes,
Okay.
praise God, because they will
Cause
put you through it. Because I think the best people for children to test things with is with their parents,
yeah,
because we can we can school them in a safe space versus the world. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
the world tests them, and they
Cause
can
we
end
tell
up
them the
in prison
hardcore truth.
or
Yeah,
something like that. You know, so they're going
right.
to test things with us. They're going to test
Yeah.
and crash or test and fly. It depends on the situation, right?
Oh yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
it
Yeah.
motherhood is a beautiful thing, and I always say that
It
to
is.
myself every day. I wouldn't have it any other way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have want to have any lesser kids than I have now, or everything I feel when it comes to my children mapped out how it's supposed to map out. So we always got to remember that and give ourselves a little bit more grace at the same time.
Amen. Absolutely. Yeah, that key word patience is something that we definitely, like you said, is universal. How many of you had to, if you are a parent, how many of you had to learn patience? Just say me. Just put your hand and say me, 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 right? Because when you have a child, you're gonna learn about yourself that you didn't learn about yourself when you were single, when you were, before you became a parent. You're gonna learn a whole lot about yourself when you start raising kids. I'm telling you. Okay. Let's go to the next part of that PTSD. We got the word temperance for that letter T, temperance, right? That came to my mind because I was like, what can I put? But temperance is, oh, Annette, yes, he said me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But look at me. Everybody.
Because a net will put a kid in their place, even if it's not her kid. She gonna be like, what? Let me try. She'll put. I've seen her many times do that. Man, and let you approach her and talk about what you said to my kids. Yeah, I said it. She get that finger going. It's a wrap. I just sit back and be like, listen, y'all need to just leave
Come
that
on,
woman alone.
Medea.
She does
That's
not.
how you do it. Cause I'm like that too.
Yeah.
I ain't got time. I'm from that old school. I'm from that
Yep.
cloth. Okay. What you not gonna do? You're not gonna disrespect me or my
Yes.
house. You're gonna
That
get it
part.
together. Okay. Child.
Like, wait a
Let
minute.
me tell you, we ain't got time today.
Yep.
Cause these kids, some of these kids, they are raised so different, and they
Yeah,
got
they
that.
are
They are very bold,
very bold.
very vocal, very
Yeah.
bold,
Yeah.
and they don't come with like, hello, ma'am, how you doing? Like, what's up?
No.
How you doing? Like, what's up?
Yeah. Yeah. Or bruh or those words. It was to the point where back then, if a woman came in the room, a man will
Yeah,
young man will like fix himself up. Like if his pants was sagging, he'll pull it up. If his collar wasn't right, he'll button it up. Like
right,
they just fix themselves up a little bit, because
absolutely,
there's a elder, a woman coming in the room. Now
yeah,
it's like woman, who you talking to? It's different. Yeah. But again,
So,
it's from I tell my kids is if they're in that environment, that's the product of the environment they're a part of, or the lack of an environment. So yeah, temperament is important when it comes to raising children. It is.
yes, Lord.
I learned the new word tonality.
Tonality. Tonality.
Tonality is important, you
Yeah.
know, making sure our tone is good, making sure our temperature is good. Because I could be in a bad headspace that has nothing to do with my kids, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It could be
Mm-hmm.
something going on in my business or something going on in whatever. And I got to make sure that I'm not projecting my temperament or whatever I'm going through onto them as well. So that's important as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, temperance is something that I think we definitely need, or we should be, practicing on a daily basis, because this is all about restraints. It's all about restraining, and you know, um, not being out of order or doing, you know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. Um, Especially, I would say this, going back when I was a child, back in the day, when it came to the rod in the Bible, disciplining your child in terms of spanking and all of those things, that went down. Ain't nobody went away from that. If your child was acting up, it was hands down, for real, for real. Even the neighborhood, the village, back in the day, they would go ahead and whack your tail in a minute, but they did it in discipline. They didn't get it. They didn't do it out of anger. They didn't pour their anger. They didn't do it out of, no, you know what I'm saying? So, but now it got so bad down through the years. After that, it's gotten so bad now that, of course, now there's some laws to that. Now you got to be careful. You spank a child and you go to jail and all this other stuff or whatever. And now the kids, they take it to their advantage. Like, you hit me, I'm calling DIFUS. I'm calling the police and all this other bunch of bull junk and stuff. But yes, it does require you to have that temperance. Because again, like Tisha said, sometimes one of them kids gonna try it. You get some bad mouth, you get someone that dares you, and they say something, they suck their teeth. Oh, if I did that to my mother back in the day, I won't have no teeth. Okay, I couldn't do that if I wanted to. Now, I'm not gonna say I was a perfect child. No, I wasn't, because I did try my mother too. I'll be like, I ain't doing nothing. She's like, wait, what? What'd you say? you know, and it was a whole nother conversation after that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
But yeah, you do need that temperance. And again, only God can definitely instill that into you. He can help you with that, especially when you come across those challenges with your child or with your children.
Right.
Because again, they will try you, and some situations can try you. It's not even
Right.
just your child's attitude or temperament. It's life.
It's life. Yeah.
Life.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
life is hitting different now than it was
Yeah.
back in the day. Even
Yeah.
back then, it was
Yeah.
crazy. But our parents back then, or our grandparents, they knew how to work it.
It had to
If
work
that makes
because there
sense.
was a balance. Like I've experienced that growing up. There was a balance of love
A
and
balance. Yeah.
correction. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And now
Yes.
there's no balance. It's like if a child's always going to get corrected, but they don't see
Yes.
the love there, right?
Right.
They're going to find love in the wrong places. So there has to be a healthy balance of those two
Yeah.
things because it's
Yeah.
important that they have that. You know, my
Absolutely.
son, I could correct him, but also say, "Oh, you are so handsome. You're so amazing. You're doing great in school." Things like that, and just express that love. Some people think, yeah, I'm showing love because I pay the bills or I buy
Mhm.
clothes, stuff. That's it. Anybody can do that. That's not
Yeah.
something that's so out of the box for these kids these
Right.
day and age, especially when they can get money these days working on the internet. You know what I'm saying? So it's
True
no
that.
like wow. But if they have that balance of love and correction, it does create a healthier temperament,
Mhm.
for
There you
them
go.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I thank God for those persons that was in my life that had that balance.
Yeah.
I rarely got spankings. I got spanking like maybe once, and that's the truth. When I was 7 years old, and I did something stupid, and I told my mom what I did, and she disciplined me as she should have. and I never did it again. And I thank God for her love for disciplining me and correcting me, because if she didn't do that, I would have continued on doing what I know I shouldn't have done. And that's the problem with now with these parents today. For some of them, they never used that rod. They never disciplined their child. They was
Well,
very passive.
I got disciplined a lot because of my mouth.
Yeah.
My mouth will always get me in trouble. I had a pop you in the mouth type of mouth. You know what I mean? Backhand, like hand you in the lip. Like what you say? That's the type of mouth I had. Because
I can see you like, what you
everything
talking?
to me was not fair. Everything. That's not
Wow.
fair. That was my favorite word. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's
What? Oh wow.
yeah,
That
yeah.
is
My mom used to
something.
man listen. Whew.
Wow. That
And
is something.
my
How
brother, he
many of
got a
you?
lot of whoopings because he was a daredevil. He was the one that would take your car and everything. He got whoopings. Now that boy got whoopings. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
How many of you, just put that down there, how many of you can recall how difficult were you with your mom or your dad?
Yeah.
Thank you, baby, spare the rod, spoil the child,
We don't
right?
want
We
no
don't, we
rude
don't,
kids.
yes, right. How many of you had to get them hands?
Yeah. And the rod doesn't always have to even be hands. It could be,
Right.
again, it could be I'm taking the games from you, or you're not going to hang out with your friends, or you're not going to get what you want to get when you want to
You
get
get
it.
the full
You know?
package.
I mean, for us, the spanking was like the extreme level of like, you ain't, like, for my example, you ain't going to shut up. I'm making shut up.
Mhm.
You know? That was
I
like
give you something to cry about.
yeah, that's the extreme level of it all. I just was not trying
Woo!
to shut up, especially my brother
Yeah.
taking my parents' cars and taking a joyride. Yeah, that's a whooping because he was underage, and if he got pulled over, they would have got in trouble.
Woo!
Yeah, child,
Wow.
listen.
Wow. I tell you, better thank God for your parents and thank God for their discipline. I'm telling you the truth, man,
Yep.
because that's what trained us today to be who we are today. And now we can instill, those lessons and those memories, to your children and let them know that the consequences is still the same. Now it might be a little different, but it's still, I'm your parent. This is not your best friend. I can't stand to hear that kind of stuff. With these kids, these parents, oh, that's my best friend. No, that's your daughter. Okay, that's your son. Okay, that's not your best friend. You gave birth to your best friend. No, 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 no. Even when they become adults, there's still honor in that. There's still some. I get you have a very close relationship. I had it with my mother, but that was my mother,
Yeah, it's
and
like
I
what
was
you
her
just
child.
said. It's a mother daughter or mother son type of relationship to where there are some heavy boundaries. Friendship, the boundaries are a
Exactly.
little bit vague, but when you're a mom, you can't be your children's friend. You could be the person
Right.
that they could talk to and have confidence. And yeah, you could go hang out with your daughter. Me and my daughter get our hair, like nails done, all that.
Yeah.
But it's not a, like what you're saying, it's not a friendship in a sense. I'm her mom. My
Exactly.
daughter is a mother daughter type of relationship situation. Same thing with the
Right.
marriage or anything else in life. It's different.
Yeah.
There's certain parameters that you can't really. You have to stay within that. You can't go outside of. You know what I mean? When
Oh
it's
yeah.
motherhood. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the next letter to the PST
She said, "Don't talk to me like
is sacrifice. The letter
that."
S is sacrifice.
Sacrifice. That's our
Woo!
word for 2025, right in it? Sacrifice. Yes,
Yes,
that's a big thing.
sacrifice. Because I tell you right now, I don't think our kids, even when they become adults, would never understand the sacrifices that we have made, to for our kids to get where they are today by the grace of God, of course. They will probably would never know, and then again they probably will know in times growing whatever. But again, you're going to make a lot of sacrifices, when it comes to your child or children, and some going to be easy and some going to be very difficult, and some's going to be joyful, some going to be very tearful. It's going to test you, right? And it's going to test you, because sometimes your kids, they could be very selfish, right? They could get selfish sometimes, and they want more and more and more, or whatever the case be. And you like, listen, no, no, you don't understand what I had to go through. You don't understand what I had to endure to make sure you get to where you are right now, you know. And then you have some kids that could be very ungrateful. Back in the day, for me, that would, I won't say that was not the case, but those parents made it very plain as to what they had to do to make sure that child got their backside in college, that child went to the military, or whatever it was. They made sure that child knew what their parents had to sacrifice to make sure that child get to where they are today, right? But sacrifice is something that, it's, you can't be selfish when it comes to your child. You want the best for your son or your daughter. You want to do what you can to make sure they have a great school year, a great senior year, a great college year, or whatever it is. You want to make sure that they have, what you didn't have. And I hear it all the time. You want to make sure they have, material things a little bit better than what your parents could not afford for you. But now that God has, financially blessed you to a certain area of life, you can do a little bit more. And that's a blessing. That still comes with some boundaries with that as well. That's another conversation in itself. But, again, you sacrifice, because that money could have been used towards something else. But since your child's needs in certain things, you went and poured into that. You're going to sacrifice your time. You're going to sacrifice your time. You're going to sacrifice your, your love. Sometimes you're going to sacrifice a whole lot of things, especially when it comes to relationships with the opposite sex. You may be a single parent and you have someone that you may be attracted to, or you've been dating that person for a minute or whatever. But, again, you ain't married yet. So there may be some things that you're going to have to sacrifice when it comes to your son or your daughter, okay? Because that's a relationship there. It's not just between you and him, but it's between you, him, and that child. And there's some boundaries when it comes to that too. Again, that's a whole nother conversation. But even with that still comes with some sacrifice, because you got to spend that time with your daughter, your son, just like you spend time with that person. But that guy has to understand, listen, I gotta take care of my baby. I gotta do this, I gotta do that, whatever it is. And hopefully they will understand, and not only just that, but respect your boundaries, respect you as a parent, respect your love, respect your morals, and all of those things. And when it comes to your child, okay, because you're just dating, y'all ain't married yet, y'all just dating, okay? So, but even with that, not even just courting, but even sacrifice when it comes to family members. You got to make sacrifices with that too, especially when your child is young and they are still in that vulnerable stage in their life where they need their mommy. They need, you know what I'm saying? And I know we need our mommy time and our downtime, and that comes, we make that happen. But when your child is in that stage, sometimes you're just going to have to say, well, you know what, sis, cuz, uncle, whatever, I love you, but I'm just going to be here with my baby because my baby needs me. I got to take care of whatever. There's so many things as a parent that, our children may not understand or may not realize the sacrifices that, we make to make sure they're safe. They are well taken care of, provided for, they are covered. Even when it comes to our prayer life. Come on, y'all, when it comes to our prayer life, because there's a lot going on in this world, especially when it comes to our kids and technology, right? We sacrifice a lot to make sure our kids have the updated phones and the laptops and all of that, but even with that being said, you still got to have some boundaries with that. It's a lot. It's so much going on with that. But sacrifice is something that never will fade out. It would never phase out. Even when your child becomes a young adult, you still might make some sacrifices when it comes to them as well, right? So, thank God that God continues to help us with that, because sometimes we get a little bit irritated with that. We want to be selfish too. We want to, like, you know what, I don't want to do nothing. No, say, Lord, help me to not be selfish, but help me to be, accessible and to pour out. I know, God, you're going to provide. You're still providing anyhow, even though I don't see all the resources there, but I know you are providing for us, so, help me, oh God, not to get so overwhelmed by what is not here, because my son needs shoes, or my son needs this dress, or my son needs school stuff and all of those things. I can't tell you how many times I was praying so hard when my girls was younger, and how I was like, Lord, they need some more clothes, because kids grow up so quick, y'all. They grow so fast, and it's time to get some more shoes, time to get some more clothes. You just bought them a pair of shoes 6 months ago. Now they need another pair of sneaks. Woo wee, and you got to think about the bills. You got to think about the mortgage. You got to think about all this other stuff. And you got to go ahead and make that decision. That could be very difficult and very painful, but it is so necessary at the end, right? Go ahead, Tisha.
It is. And when it comes to teaching our children sacrifice, it's going to help them to build character. This is why
Absolutely.
we gotta just keep going with the process, no matter how much kickback we get from them, no matter like my son,
Yeah.
he's a Gemini. He does this thing where if he mad at me, he'll just like avoid me, won't talk or nothing. It's okay, It hurts my feelings sometimes, but again, I'm trying to get him to understand, like, hey, you're wrong,
Yeah.
and you got to
Yeah.
understand that. But
Yeah.
it, sacrifice does help children build more character, because they're going to come across so much hardship in life. Life is going to teach them hard things, especially in
Oh,
this
yes,
world that we're
Lord.
living in. So,
Yeah.
teaching our kids how to handle discomfort, right,
Mm-hmm.
is going to
Mm-hmm.
help them to build up mental toughness.
Mm-hmm.
Because we teach them how to handle the be uncomfortable and still keep moving, and be
Mm-hmm.
discomfort and still keep rising up to the occasion. They're going to have that mental toughness. They're going to have that maturity.
Mm-hmm.
A
Mm-hmm.
lot of men walking around here just being immature because they used to getting what
Mm-hmm.
they want, getting their way, not having to
Mm-hmm.
play their role in their position, and
Yeah.
trying to just put it on the other woman 24/7, and then trying to degrade us at the same time. Is
Yeah.
You got to, as mothers, we got to teach our sons and our daughters,
Mm-hmm.
how to have
Mm-hmm.
some. It's okay if they're uncomfortable or mad at you or don't feel it's fair or whatever. Let them feel
Yeah.
that. And so they can
Absolutely.
build that mental toughness. And
Mm-hmm.
also it's going to teach them to not give up when times get hard.
Right.
How many kids they start something and, oh, it got hard, so I wouldn't do that job. I was talking, me and Annette, I always keep referencing Annette. Annette and I went to a restaurant. We had a church function, and we went to a restaurant one day, and the owner was like, listen, it's hard hiring young kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Back then, Tawanta,
Yeah.
every young kid, if they wanted a job, would be at McDonald's, at a
Yep.
restaurant, at a center, they would get hired. That they were looking for the young kids. Now there's some people, you say, hey, we just like, yeah, but y'all do that thing, yeah, but nowadays, these business owners don't want to deal with attitudes from these kids. They got to deal with the
Yeah.
customer. They got to deal with contractors. They got to deal with vendors. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And then
Right.
deal with a young child that's not theirs, coming with an attitude is hard. So, um, teaching our kids how to sacrifice again is going to teach them how to not give up, how to
Right.
really, learn have discomfort and still keep pushing it through, and not always giving it. Oh, baby, okay, fine. You don't have to go
Mm-hmm.
back on Monday. No, go back.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, your daughter worked too, and she,
Yes.
dealt with challenges as a young
Yes.
lady, and she had to
Yes.
deal with that, and that takes
Yes.
them into managerial positions as well. You know what I mean? Where they
Mm-hmm.
know how to
Mm-hmm.
handle challenges and conflict. Because again,
Exactly.
as an adult, you got to be good at handling conflict. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? But they're not
Yes.
learning that young, then they're going to be fighting tooth and nail, being disrespectful, insubordinate,
Yep.
all these things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. I know, and I'm glad you mentioned about the job, because these kids got to understand that no job's not going to take you when you have that type of attitude, and very disrespectful, very impatient. You don't want to work. You just want the paycheck. paycheck, you don't want to work. And I know what Stephanie, when when she was a teenager, she was working at McDonald's, and McDonald's, they hire kids, they hire teenagers, just to get their start or whatever. And she's always been a hard worker. That's just her nature. And even with Naya, same thing. But they have always told me these stories about their coworkers, their former peers, and some of them could be a little too prissy. They're like, I gotta do that, I gotta do that. And they be sitting in the room, in the sitting in the area eating their cheeseburger or whatever. They don't want to clean up, they don't want to mop the floors, they don't want to do nothing, but they just want to go. Or if they do it, they do with with an attitude or whatever the case may be. And so we as parents, we have to take that time to teach our children about the proper etiquette, how to how to respond to an adult, how to respond to people that's older to you, that can be a blessing to you, that can really help you in the long haul. You may not see that now, but you never know how you can bless someone. When you learn how to be kind, you don't know who you entertaining. That person could be an angel in disguise, that could be a blessing to your life. You never know. But when you have these very disrespectful kids and stuff like that, they miss out on the opportunity. They mess up on their own selves. So yes, it is important for us to really, again, be grateful for that opportunity. We are sacrificing, and don't let that sacrifice become a burden to you. Don't let that become a burden to you, moms. I don't know why that just hit my spirit. Don't let that become a burden to you. I know, because a lot of times we grieve. That's it. We grieve, over that. I did so much. I did this, I did that, and da, 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 da. And I'm not there dummy down that, but don't grieve over that. God knows what you have employed out. He already know what you have done. And trust me, daughter, he's going to reward you for what you have done, because you did it from your heart. Okay. But don't grieve over it. Don't resent. That's another word that's coming to my spirit. Don't resent that. Okay. Because a lot of times, we get overwhelmed, we get upset, we get angry, especially if our kids want to retaliate and have the nerve to get all uppity, and then we go ahead and rehearse all what I've done. No, just go ahead and pour into your child, because guess what? God continues to pour into you. He sacrificed his son, did he not? And yet we still continue to act childish. Okay, I'll leave that alone. Right? But
That's
thank
right.
God for his love.
Thank
Thank
God
God for
for
his
his
love,
love and
right?
continue
You know?
love. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we go to the last letter of this word of PTSD. It's called discipline. Discipline,
Discipline.
that is something that will never fade. It would never fade away. That is something that we had to learn growing up, and even as adults, we still learning about discipline.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, this is automatic. This is transferable. We cannot let that slip out or ignore that or put it in the closet. No, we got to continue to bring that into our children's well-being and their growth. We got to teach them about discipline,
Yeah.
and how to discipline themselves, how to
Yeah.
respect themselves, how
Yeah.
to walk with the confidence and with the integrity and all those
Yeah.
things, and how to be respectful for others, to others,
Other
and all
people.
of that.
Yeah. That's right.
Discipline is not just about, spare the rod, spoil the child. That's one part of that
Yeah.
pie.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
other part of that pie is about, disciplining yourself,
Right.
knowing who you are. You still
Right.
learning and growing. I guarantee you, everyone who's watching this right now, you are not that same person as you
Yeah.
were 10 years ago.
No, no, no. Not at all.
It came with some sacrifice. It came through
And
some with
some
some
discipline.
patience, temperance, and discipline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So as a parent, I had to learn that too. We
Yeah,
all
we
have
had
to learn
to.
it.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
we
it's an
got
important
multiple
thing.
kids. Yes, absolutely. Because life it's going to shift you. It's going to shift you in so many different ways and so many directions. And you may not have the tools right away, but as you're going through those challenges, it's going to discipline you in some form or fashion.
Right.
It's going to help you, it's going to develop you, it's going to train you. And again, it's going to teach you some things. It's going
That's
to teach
right.
you about yourself. There's some things that you think you can get over. It's not going to work this time. So you got to learn how to make those sacrifices. You got to learn how to, be patient with yourself and forgive yourself. That's another
That's
letter
right.
that I should have added. That's all right. But we got to learn how to forgive ourselves, because as parents, we hold a lot of regrets when our sons or daughter get in some issues or situations, and we regret that we did not be parenting enough
Right.
to discipline our child. Because if we would have done what we were supposed to do, our child would not be where they are today or have done these things or whatever. We're not psychics. Come on. We
No,
can only
no.
do what God has given us the ability to do, what has been
Right.
trained in us, what has been instilled in us, and that is to teach our child and pray, and hopefully that we're teaching the base according to the word of God, right? But again, when they get to that stage of adulthood, they're gonna go ahead and learn.
Yeah, they're
They're
gonna
gonna go
learn.
ahead and do
They're
stuff
gonna
just
learn
like
some way.
we did, just like we did,
Yep.
right?
Same
But it
way.
still requires patience. It requires patience. It requires temperance, sacrifice, but it definitely requires some discipline.
Yes.
Okay, as parents, we got to be disciplined enough to just have to scale back and let our child learn from what they think is the best solution for them. We got to scale back.
Yeah.
At that
Yeah.
time, mother, we got to learn how to pray behind the scenes for our kids. Okay,
We
even
do.
our
We
adult
do.
kids. Okay,
Yeah.
even those teenagers that's 17, 18, 19. We got to scale back. Okay, because when
Scale
they get to
back.
that, they don't want to listen half the time.
Yeah.
They
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 gotta
got
learn
all
how to swim on their own. Yeah.
exactly. So we got to learn how to discipline in that area when it comes to that prayer life, when it comes to loving, when it comes to, just being in attendance for them. Okay. Again, because discipline, like I said, that's just for everybody. It's not just for
Everybody.
raising us kids, but it's for us adults too.
That's right. Amen. Amen. Discipline is definitely going to you mentioned something, confidence. When you teach your
Mhm.
children discipline, it gives them more confidence. It teaches them how to have confidence. It teaches them how to be more independent. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I can even tell that within my kids. You know what I'm saying? Me
Mhm.
letting go of the ranks a little bit here and there, and just
Yeah.
giving them that confidence, that trust in themselves. It's a
Right.
powerful thing when a child knows how to just trust themselves. They could trust
Yeah.
that when they set a goal that they can reach it. They could trust that when they study, they take this exam, they're going to pass it. They can just trust in their
Yeah.
own personal abilities, talents, and skills and
Hmm.
purpose, right? So
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
important. That's what discipline teaches our children. It
Yeah.
gets them to have that know-it-all, that not an ego, but just a self-awareness, right? That they
Yeah.
are who God say they are, and they are smart, educated. All the things that we tell them through discipline, they're going to actually believe it, and they're going to
Yeah.
actually put it into work. And that's all I have to say on that one.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. And also too, moms, learn to forgive yourself. Because
Yeah,
you're not going to have everything together.
yeah,
You're just not going to have everything together. You're not going to have the things that your kids want or desire,
yeah.
you know, and
You
they,
can build towards it. Absolutely. It's never
yeah,
it's
you
never
can
a done
force
deal.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So learn to forgive yourself, moms, okay? Because I know that could be that's grief. That's grieving right there. You
Yeah.
grieving and you're not really for living your life the way you deserve to live your life because you just regret. You have a lot of regrets, and your
Right.
son or your daughter is bombarding you because they want the new outfit or the new clothes or the new shoes or the new whatever, and you just can't afford to do that. And even if you tell them that, they may not understand that. Again, it's back that sacrifice again. It's all about that. But again, just learn to say, Lord, thank you anyhow for what you have already poured into my house, will you poured into my life. My kids may not get it now, but I know they will get it later. But help me, Lord, to continue to love my kids as best as I know how. And that's it. And God will continue to pour into you, strengthen you, help you through those moments when it could be very, very, uneasy and uncomfortable sometimes, right? So thank you guys. This concludes our topic for tonight. I hope this truly blessed you so good. I said last week we were going to do like a little mini series on this, and I hope, let me know if you like this. Let me know because I want to do one more time next week, and we can move on after that. But yeah, I hope this was a blessing for you, and I hope it came right on time. So we're gonna move on now to our what's news. We have two what's news that we want to share with you tonight very quickly. And our What's New segment is where we have the opportunity to put the spotlight on those individuals who are doing wonderful things in their community. And we just want to go ahead and give them that shout out, give them their praise and all that good stuff. So we got the first one out there for you that our girl Therese, she actually gave us two What's
Yes.
New. So
So you want me to read the first one and you do the second?
go for it. Go, go, go,
Okay,
go.
sure, sure, sure. So we're gonna go ahead and Teresa's gonna bring it up in the chat, and it is from an article from the Black Wealth for Life Enterprise. The Black Wealth
Yeah,
for Life Enterprise. Teresa's gonna put the link also in the chat down there in the chat for you guys while she's bringing it up.
this is so
And
cool.
so I'm gonna read the headline first. The headline says "Ride for Equity." Okay, it's 1,600
Hmm.
miles bike track from Tulsa to New York City,
Yep.
right? To
Yeah.
power Black business owners. That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm going to go ahead and read the article for you guys. It says Black Leaders Detroit has launched another initiative to work towards its equity goals. With the new 2025 Ride for Equity, registrants can take part in a group cycling event set to raise money for equitable funding, right? Practices for African American entrepreneurs and business owners, and raise awareness for the what's that word? Disparities they face. The ride beginning it's going to begin on May 31st, y'all. We'll go from Tulsa, Oklahoma to New York City, a total of 1,600 miles. Child, I can do 2 miles. Child, my legs cramp up. The Ride for Equity event will begin locally in Detroit before the ride. Oh, so you can start there, Tawanta. Oh, I think she froze. Can y'all still hear me? Let me know if y'all type in one in the chat. I think Tawanta's internet froze. Yes, so the Ride for Equity event will begin locally in Detroit before the ride on May 17th. The activities kick off will with a community bike ride from the Corktown to Belly Isle to follow the Detroit riverfront, a community run for anyone who registers, and yin yoga for equity yoga session. Okay, so basically, Black Leaders Ride for Equity event will start the week after the National Bike Ride on Black Wall Street in Tulsa, historic Greenwood District. The Ride for Equity will end on July 4th on Wall Street in New York City, right? The description of the event reads pedal towards financial equity and justice, support entrepreneurs of African descent through the transformative bike ride for equity and awareness for from Tulsa to New York City. Black Leaders Detroit Rides for Equity is filled with 5 weeks of rides through cities with roots in Black business, stopping to host a series of community discussions at key towns that focuses on supporting Black business owners. The stop outside of the opening and ending spot includes Rolla, Missouri, Terre Haute, these are like cities, I think, Indiana, Belmont, Ohio, and State College, Pennsylvania. CEO and
Hmm.
founder Dawn. Yeah, this is it's gonna start in Detroit. You can do this, Twonta.
I
Ride your
don't know
bike.
how to ride a bike.
Oh, okay, this is a train was go from Detroit to Michigan, girl. From Detroit to New York City. CEO and founder Dawn Dangridge, the Black Leadership Detroit, spoke to Bridge Detroit about the international. These ads keep coming up. Oh, the international route choice. Hold on, let me move this
Hmm.
ad. Oh, these ads keep popping up.
Yeah, child, they popping
Okay.
up crazy.
Yes. Dandridge stated, "We're riding from Black Wall Street in honor of the legacy of Greenwood, and we're going to Wall Street because it's another place where Black people had a huge hand in creating the wealth. Amen. It still
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yeah.
But also not being able to benefit from the wealth that the labor created. I'm gonna read that again. But also not being able to benefit. We're not even benefiting yet. Hold on. They, oh, these ads. Y'all gotta stop with this ads. Hold on. Not being able to benefit from the wealth. And I lost my place. Let me go get my place back. Okay, here we go. All right. So let me read the last part here. Since the organization is fully aware that Detroiters of African descent have never lacked creativity, uh, viable economic strategies, entrepreneurial zeal, or innovative business model, Black leaders, Detroit aims to diminish. Sorry, another ad just popped up. Oh, diminish the this this. Well, sorry, mess up this word disparities by providing the one thing that has been lacking financial support. Since Black Leaders Detroit founded in 2019, the group has distributed nearly 5 million in grants and loans to over 6,000 black business and organizations. Dangerous long-term vision for the Black Leaders Detroit organization is to create a model and thriving city of fully empowered responsive leaders, entrepreneurs reflective of its demographics by encouraging its 1 million members to donate $1 a week to support their goals. All right. All right, y'all. So definitely go check out this article. Put a comment under it. I think this is amazing. Now, listen, that's a long ride from Detroit to New York. So shout out to everybody who's going to be participating in that. So Therese, you can go ahead and bring up the next article. I can read that as well. I think I think Tawanta's having some internet issues. So we're going to hop on over to the next article for you guys. Thank you so much, Therese, for finding these articles. Those of you who just hopped on, we're doing What's News right now. These are different articles and publications that we like to bring on the show. This is part of our show segment. Certain things you probably have not heard in the local news that we want to highlight here on the Sister to Sister Connection show. All right, so this next article is from the Los Angeles Channel 4. It's Dr. Dre. Anybody know who Dr. Dre is? Everybody know who Dr. Dre? Dr. Dre, city official, unveils new cap. What's it? Compton High School at ribbon cutting ceremony. That's amazing. That's amazing. Go ahead and read the article. There's actually a video attached to this if y'all want to go to the article and watch it. So, a new campus was unveiled Thursday by legendary producer and entrepreneur Dr. Dre and city officials, marking the next episode for Compton High School. The new high school campus was a vision of Dr. Dre and the community of Compton after breaking ground 2 years ago. The rap mogul often said he had no creative outlet when he was in high school. But today, Dr. Dre said he was happy to have helped build one of the future kids in Compton. And this is what and he quote this 2 years ago when I attended the groundbreaking ceremony. This was just an empty dirt lot. Now today, the new Compton High School and Performing Arts Center is the world class educational facility, said Dr. Dre. The new high
Mm-hmm.
school will accommodate about 2,000 students and include a new gym, right? It's
Nice.
also going to include a football stadium and a new performing arts center that the LA producer donated $10 million to help build. That's amazing. Today
That
we
is.
celebrate the fulfillment of the promise, a vision brought to life through years of determination and collaboration, unshakable belief in the potential of our young people, says McMacha Ali. I can't pronounce it.
Micah.
Compton, Micah, sorry, Ali
Mm-hmm.
Compton. Was it Unified School District
Uh-huh.
Board President Dr. Dre says he is hoping that a new campus serves as a space to highlight some of the talent in Compton.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
It's awesome, 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 awesome. So y'all go ahead and check out this article. Again, this is a new campus, a high school campus that he has just built. He donated $10 million of his hard-earned cash to this,
Woo-hoo.
which is
That's a
amazing.
blessing.
2000 students going to have art programs, a gym, and probably so many other programs that's going to come after this. So that's amazing. That's the giving back is awesome, and I have to congratulate for that for him
That's
for that.
awesome. It
Yeah,
is. I like that. I'm sorry, y'all. My Wi-Fi just kept conking
yeah.
out on me.
No worries, no worries, no worries.
Yeah, that but I wanted to say on that too. I was just happy to read that article because again, a lot of the black brothers, of course, as you know, are not getting their props and just to see that, Dr. Dre is a man of his word because he's always been about the community anyway.
Yeah,
If any of you who are fans of Dr. Dre or follow him, he's always been that type of dude that was all
yeah,
about the community. And I know he has done other things that may not have been broadcasted out like this,
absolutely.
but this
And
is huge. This is a major, major change for, especially for the city of Compton. Yes, it's huge, and I'm very happy to see this is happening. This give the kids opportunity, to really showcase their gifts and their talents and skills,
yeah,
and that there's more to life than what they see, than
yeah.
crime and all that other stuff or whatever. So yes, this is a blessing. I like stuff like that. I like stories like that.
And
Yeah.
it's a testament that as adults, especially as women,
Yeah.
some of us may not have $10 million to give away a raise, but are we setting
Mhm.
a clear or good path? Hey, Wakita, for our children and our children
Yeah.
to come, or are we still spreading the mess, if you will?
Yeah.
So that's what we got to ask ourselves. Are we creating a
Mhm.
new path, or are we just making excuses? I'm this way because this is how I am, and that's it. Is
Mhm.
that helping the youth that's going to come behind us? So yeah, shout out to Dr.
Mhm.
Dre, and shout out to
Yeah.
the bicycling, or the
That's
black owners for
awesome.
bicycling. That's awesome. That promotes health and wellness. Even though child, I
It
can do
does.
more than a couple of miles, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna y'all do the rest. But that's amazing.
God
That's
bless y'all. I don't know how to ride a bike, so
oh
that
my
don't that's I tried, but that's not for me. That is not my
God,
ministry,
that's your
y'all.
ministry,
I do a
girl.
tricycle.
That's your ministry, love, and that's okay. That's
I
okay.
do a tricycle, but no,
Amen.
that bike thing ain't for me. Nah, nah,
Yes,
it's all
yes,
good. I ain't missing nothing.
yes, yes, yes. That's
So
amazing.
yes, y'all. I hope that concludes our what's news, y'all. That concludes our what's news. But listen, I hope you all had a great, great time. And I hope this was a great segment for you all. Again, we'll be back next week. Again to conclude our mini series of of this topic. So, but again, those who watching the replay, let us know. Let us know what you think about it, and give us your personal input about what we talked about tonight as well. But other than that, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time and spending with us. We really do appreciate our sisters. Even some guys that may come on here, but we do appreciate you all.
Next Sunday is June 1st. So I really want you guys to hone in and think about like what is your top three for the month of June. Next month is going to be the close of the second quarter. So think about like what are the top three things you want to accomplish, what are the type or what do you want to start doing? It doesn't have to always be something you want to accomplish. It can be something also that you
Yeah.
want to start doing. So definitely think about those things, and we
Yeah.
can definitely come together, especially in our group, our sister to sister pay connection Facebook group, and have a conversation, an open discussion about it as well. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much for joining us on another episode of the Connection Talk Show. Till next time, love on your sister. Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.